Hello, everyone. I wanted to very quickly, and I'll keep this really simple and really quick. I wanted to just have a quick overview of the vaccines. I've had a lot of people within the field of complementary medicine and therapy, and people who are clever and intelligent people tell me this is a terrible genetic experiment. Anyway, so there is the my rant about complementary medicine. Join me tonight, Facebook Live on Functional Fashion, where I talk about complementary medicine and kind of this thing with it. So I really wanted to just give you a brief overview. And so this year I've been studying as part of a Bachelor of Science. Thank you, Jen. You say the right things. A part of a Bachelor of Science. My modules this year have been cell biology, so this has come at a good time because this is all part of what's been going on, viruses and study of viruses and various other things. And I've just had my vaccine this morning, which was the AstraZeneca vaccine. I wanted to just, I'm not going to go into massive amounts of detail. I just want to give you a brief overview, because people say, oh, well, I'm entitled to my opinion. Yeah, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but what I want is your opinion to be a bit informed. And so hopefully if this informs you, I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't believe or think about. You're going to believe anything you want as far as I'm concerned. But what's that, Bill Gates? Oh, yeah, I'll tell them that, don't worry. But basically, DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, is the genetic printing, effectively. It's in the nucleus of all our cells. And its job is to send out information from the nucleus into the ribosomes. The cell has lots of different organelles and that does different things, and some of it cleans things out, and some of it brings things energy. But the DNA is held in the nucleus of the cell, and it transmits the information about us, how big my nose is, or, where I'm going to lay fat down on my butt. And it unzips it. So it's a double helix, as we all know, and it unzips it and spins it out, and you have two strands of this. But what the job of DNA is to code for proteins, and it's for proteins that build us. It's our building block. We are basically made of proteins. That's what we all are. So we're mostly water, and then after that, the biggest thing that we have is proteins. So the DNA is the coding for our proteins. It tells you, like I said, how tall you're going to be, the size of your nose. It doesn't tell you necessarily that you're going to like watching Coronation Street, or that you're going to be like the Arsenal or what have you. So there's a lot of environmental aspects. You can look at genes in relation to your build and what sports you can do and stuff like that, but it doesn't count for the environment. So there's 3 vaccines that are out there. There's the Pfizer vaccine, there's the Moderna vaccine, and then there's the AstraZeneca vaccine. And there'll be some others coming along later on. The Russians have done some other things, but which turned out to be quite good. So the first one, the Pfizer vaccine, introduces mRNA. So when DNA starts to replicate, which it does all the time, there's millions of codes, millions of bits of different code that it does for different proteins. When it starts to code for that, what it does is it doesn't send itself out. It sends itself out in the form of an RNA into a structure called the ribosome, and that then pushes that out, and it goes through a process of transcription. It writes it down, and then it translates it to form the protein, and off we go again. So the Pfizer vaccine, what this does is it basically introduces a messenger RNA which goes into the cytoplasm, the sort of the outside. It doesn't go into the nucleus of the cell. It goes into the sort of the bit that's outside the nucleus. And it stimulates the ribosome to produce a protein. Remember that's just what we're doing, is that it's not changing our genetic makeup. It's stimulating one of the bits, one of the workers in the cell to produce a protein, which is called a spike protein, which is similar to the protein that's produced in relation to the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is the COVID that as we know it. And what this does then is it creates a slight inflammatory response, creates the protein that's similar to the virus, and we then can recognize that virus when it happens, and it creates protection. The reason that it's gone through so quickly, and I'm not going to bore you with details, but if I have an idea now and I want to take it through ethics and get funding for billions of pounds for research and development in a drug, it's going to take me years. It's going to take me loads of money. I'm going to have to go through funding cycles. I'm going to have to wait and find out whether my research is going to be accepted. None of that happened with these. That's why we could push this thing through so quickly, because all the checks and balances that are normally done in place take a long time, because you've got to get permissions. It goes to the bottom of a file. It has to be checked and reviewed, and everybody else wants that. But everything else was put to one side. And so the money was thrown at this, the resources were thrown at this, the people were thrown at this. And once you have that, you can do a lot of things. Anyway, so that's RNA. And the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines work similar to that. Now, the AstraZeneca one is slightly different because that does work on DNA. And it takes the DNA off chimpanzee virus, not a chimpanzee itself, although I'm hankering for a banana right now. And that's what I had this morning. So it takes out the DNA. Everything's got a DNA, whether it's a tortoise or a virus. They've all got a DNA. And it takes out the bit in the DNA that codes for the replication of it, and it gets rid of that, so it rubs it out. And it replaces this is what the genetic engineers have done, it replaces this with the instructions to write, again, the protein. So what that then does is, in the injection, it manages to get into the nucleus of our cells, all right? Nothing to worry about here, because, again, and the blueprint and the coding has all been written, so we know what it's going to code for. You can't just hide a bit of code in that, because you can test it out. And so the genetic engineers have shown us what the protein is, the protein, the recipe is, if you like, for that protein. So it's not going to actually affect our genome. It's not going to go into our DNA. But what it's going to do is it's going to go into the nucleus, and the nucleus, in exactly the same way, is going to tell and code for the protein, pass that out into the cytoplasm in the form of RNA. That gets translated into mRNA, and the same thing as the other vaccines have happened. It then codes for that protein to create the spike protein. It's just a different way around it, in order to try and create the immune response. So all we're really doing is trying to create the same proteins that appear on the virus within our human system. It's not a huge genetic experiment because we're not using genes. It doesn't stay in the genome for long enough. It's not got the information to affect our genes. And if it did, it would have to code correctly. And then what would it do? I'm not exactly sure what it would do anyway. Would it affect the way that I pass on my children so that they are all breaking wind? Oh, that worked anyway. So it doesn't make sense as to how it would be a genetic experiment. This kind of stuff, this kind of DNA and working on genes has been going on for years in terms of the research, and there's lots of stuff that's out there already and that's been worked on. The thing about the AstraZeneca one is that after a while, if it's going to be really successful, they have to stop using the chimpanzee adenovirus, which is what this is based on, because the basis of the chimpanzee adenovirus is that it hasn't been exposed to humans. We haven't seen it before. Is it safe? I've looked at the data and I think it is safe. I can't see a flaw in it. There's lots of information out there. It's a complicated subject. I've been studying it for a little while, but it's hard stuff, and there's no way that I would put myself out there as anything other than somebody that's covered it in a module at university, so in reasonable depth. So I think as long as you understand that this is not some kind of weird sci-fi invention. We are coding for proteins all the time, day in, day out. Some of our codes would be meters long, and it contains thousands and thousands of stuff. And there's a lot we don't know about DNA, like only about 2% of the content of DNA codes for protein, and the rest of that sort of 98% is sort of packing material. We don't know if there's any use for it yet. So there's a lot of stuff we don't know. So it's been going on for a little while. It isn't a weird genetic experiment. You are entitled to your opinion, but now if you've heard this, then you have an opinion which hopefully is a little bit formed on fact. I would personally say that I am relatively ambivalent to the whole idea of the vaccine, but I think just because I'm not in a risk group, but that means I'm privileged to be in that risk group. That doesn't mean to say that other people aren't. And I think that we've been lucky in many respects with this virus. The next one's going to hit us harder, and we can't keep producing vaccines. We have to look at things like lifestyle, when we talk about following the science, whatever that means, we have to follow the science, which is unequivocal, that we need to have more exercise and better diets and be healthier, and stop chopping down millions of forests, and so that we can produce massive amount of meat, make humans live in closer contact with animals. It's a recipe for disaster. So, but that's another subject for another time. This is about the virus and the vaccination program. I think it's safe. I don't think it's a sinister thing, and so that gives you a little bit of background. Hopefully, there's loads of stuff you could look up on YouTube for understanding how DNA unzips itself and the coding of it, and various other bits and pieces. Some great stuff out there. So, but those people who are in the business of complementary medicine, and they are the people that concern me most, you have a responsibility, if you're going to voice your opinion, to voice it based on fact and not based on sort of conspiracy theorist YouTubers. So, you know, do your proper research, look up DNA, look up what it does, look at how it codes, look at what's going on here from an objective perspective, and try not to listen to some of the Facebook's doctors that are out there that are just basically peddling completely false and untrue information. The stuff that I'm reading that people are sending, posting, it's like that's not actually true. That's not what the science is. That's not what even the basic principles of DNA coding is about. So stop it. Just you know, you're clever people. Don't jump on this bandwagon of bashing something. Do a bit of research, have a little look, and I will fall out with you over it. So be warned, because you know, if you're just going to talk nonsense, then well, what conversation are we going to have? But you're seeing people, and those people are looking to you as leaders to understand, to help them to understand. You know, what should I be worried? Should I be scared? And if you're generating fear in people without good cause and without a really good scientific basis, then I think you should really have a good, long, hard look at yourself in whether you are able to class yourself as a healer or a therapist, because you have a responsibility. But anyway, getting into the field of controversy, and I didn't want to do that, but that's cell stuff, that's DNA, and I'm off to go and get a banana. And come and see me at 6 o'clock, and I'll tell you some of the other things that are on my mind. Bye for now.